So, welcome. My name is Chris, and tonight you're in for a treat. We have Liz M. Lopez with us to present using evidence statements in your resume. And before I hand things over to Liz, I just wanted to do a book shout out. We have lots of resume books in our ebook collections, but this one is The Elements of Resume Style by Scott Bennett. And you can check that out as an ebook through our Overdrive collection. And you can see all of our ebook collections at hcplc.org/ebooks. So go on over there and check it out. And also now I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to give Liz presenter control. And welcome, Liz, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn off. Yeah.
Delighted to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. I'm going to turn my microphone and camera off, but I'll be here if you need me, okay?
Great. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm going to dive right in. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about who I am, and then we're going to dive into the material about using evidence statements in our resume, and I'm also going to stretch it a bit and talk to you about how to then position those in interviews. I am a career and business coach, a speaker, and very thankfully a best-selling author. My first book, Suck It Up Buttercup, 10 Tough Love Strategies to Get You Off Your Butt and Making Money, was published in 2018 and is an Amazon bestseller. My second book, Permission to Dominate, which speaks to overcoming barriers to succeed in your careers and business, though that book is coming out this fall. In my coaching, I work with corporate professionals, C-suite executives, and business owners to help them devise the right language, communication, build up their brand, and help them engage with their audience. So if they're professionals, it's about, how are they succeeding in the workplace? With executives, it's a lot of career planning and also building them up as influencers. And with business owners is about building systems to joyful profitability. I've been doing this for the past 13 years and absolutely love this work. It's transformational when I work with individuals, and it changes their lives. I will have slides available to share with you. What I do need for you to do, and you can take a screenshot and find me at this link. If you join my email community, I'll be happy to send you a PDF of the slides if you're interested in having those. As I am working with clients, they're usually in some sort of change. A lot of my clients are already employed and they're just looking for maybe a better opportunity, moving into leadership. But with 2020 and COVID-19, there also has been an influx, a greater amount of clients that I'm working with that are in transition. And one of the messages I want to bring you tonight is to know that there are absolutely possibilities. It is definitely possible to find a job in today's climate. It's competitive, it may take time. But here are two examples of testimonials that I've received in the past 60 days, and there have been many more of my clients that have been employed. But one of these showcases an individual who was in IT and finally made the leap into a salary leadership position. And the second one is a chief financial officer, so a C-suite executive that found a very, very powerful new opportunity. Again, even in today's climate, the opportunities are out there, and to really maximize those opportunities, you just need to be able to present yourself in a really powerful way, which is why I want to talk to you about having evidence of your achievements, both in your resume as well in your conversation and discussion in interviews. We all know that resumes are basically supposed to have career history. What has happened is that resumes have really evolved. Whereas several years ago, resumes a lot of times talked about the duties of the job, the responsibilities of the job, what you were supposed to do. Modern resumes are really documentation of your contributions, What were the specific achievements? What's your professional brand? What do you stand for? And what kind of value are you delivering? Your unique value proposition. A lot of that is captured around this concept of building evidence-based bullets. And I want to give you some examples of that, walk you through how to construct them, give you a formula for constructing them. When I look at resumes, often when a person lists their jobs, they give a brief description of what the job was, and then they have bullets. The bullets are really intended to be evidence-based. They're meant to be achievements, contributions, as much as possible, measurable results. But oftentimes, what individuals have on their resume is vague. Like this first statement here that says, customer service, to provide customer service to members, claimants, and representatives filing an auto claim. Well, that tells me what your assignment was, but it doesn't really tell me if you did it well. What does it mean in your particular role to have provided customer service? What were the specific actions around this? And absolutely, what's the evidence that you did it well? Employers are right now getting hundreds of applicants per job. And you don't want to make them work hard. They're not going to dig to see if you would be good at the job. You want to make that glaringly obvious. And I do that with my clients by using a strategy called MOES, Moments of Evidence. And these two examples here are moments of evidence related to the same sentence, that provide customer service to members, claimants, and representatives filing an auto claim. That's a great description of the role, but in the bullets, you want power. You want numbers. Statements like, gathered auto accident details from 75 plus customers per day filing insurance claims. There you're giving scope. Even though you don't necessarily have results on there, the fact that there's a number showcases your ability to manage a high volume of clients per day. Right. Next one, exceeded 92% insurance claim quality goal with a 97% score for all of 2019. Right. So that immediately shows that this is a top performer who has been above the goal related to that particular metric, and they did it for an entire year. So they were consistent. So there's time frames involved, there's specific measurements, there's what was required and what was delivered, and there are specific metrics. All of these together provide a much clearer view of what you were doing in the job, but also the fact that you were doing it well. And that's critical for you to stand out in this modern job market, especially this year as we've gotten to a much more competitive place in the job market. So let's talk about what these MOES, what these moments of evidence are. These statements, which usually are going to be involved in your bullets, and you may also have some at the beginning of your resume in the professional profile segment, these moments are specific. They have details, they're brief. They're success stories, little mini success stories, and if you can superpower them with measurable results, even better. You want to make them relevant to the job that you're pursuing. In any job that you've had, there's tons of stuff that you did on a day-to-day basis. As you look to what you're going to share on your resume about that job, you want to curate that information. You want to be 100% honest, but you want to be selective about the information you present. If you had a role at a job where you were doing a little bit of financial work and a little bit of IT work, and you want to go for an IT job, then spend more time on your resume talking about the duties that you had that were related to IT items, as well as the contributions, the moments of evidence that support your success in the IT portion of your role. And to do that, and when you get to the point where you're devising your resume, you'll include some of this, but definitely when you are interviewing, you want to follow the STAR method. Now you'll see SARs and you'll see stars, and you'll notice that mine has both the T and an extra R. And that's because there are two elements that I find important that I incorporate with my clients as I'm coaching them for interviews. And this includes being able to clearly state the situation. As much as possible, give them a timeline. Was the project a 3-day project? Was it a 3-month project? Allow them to understand the passing of time. Was it a result? Did you get a 92% quality that day, that month, that week, that year? What exactly are you working with? Describe your actions. Be specific. Now, on your resume, you're going to want to do this in really kind of sound bites, small pieces. When we get to the point where you're speaking in an interview, you're just going to blow that up a lot bigger. And I'm going to give you some examples of this in the following slides. Speak to the results. Every single time that you can, wrap it with the results. And then if you are able, especially in your interviews, to make it relevant, to draw the connection, to connect the dots between what you've just delivered, the evidence, the moment of evidence, and draw that relevance to the job that you're applying for, that's when you're really going to stand out in the minds of the people interviewing them. A bonus item I want to mention is that if you build an evidence-based resume, that begins to prepare you for powerful, impactful, and I'll say memorable interviews. If you build your resume using this formula, then you're training yourself to speak this way, and you can take that with you into interviews. Let me give you a couple of examples. Okay. Here's an original statement that came from a resume. And I work often with a lot of C-suite executives, but sometimes I work with people in middle management, and I'm using some fairly simple examples so that these can be as clear to everyone and as relevant to everyone as possible. So let's start with helped manage the fulfillment and shipment of daily orders. Well, this is a vague statement that can A, describe a whole lot of other people, and B, doesn't really give me a lot of information. How many orders? What was the dollar value? Was it quality? Like there's so much here that I still want to know more. Now it is true that you do want your resume to create appetite. You do want an interviewer to want more, but not because there's lack of clarity, but because what you have said is so powerful, they can't wait to speak with you. Understand the difference between those two. A resume that that makes them crave a conversation with you through the powerful statements that you're making is what you're aiming for. A resume that creates questions because it's so vague is just going to get you ignored. So remember to power up your bullets. And here's an example. Processed over $2,000 in retail orders per day and prepped shirts to ship to clients all over the United States. Now, this is still a fairly simple statement, but it packs a lot more power. A, it gives you dollar value for the work being done on a daily basis. It has the word retail in it, which is a big keyword. Talks about orders, another keyword. Shipping, another keyword. Clients, another keyword. All over the United States gives scope of the fact that this is a national company, right? So there's so many little nuggets that to capture a hiring manager's attention in this statement, that even though you may look at these and think that these are similar statements, they're vastly different in how they can help you land an opportunity. So let's talk a little bit about, well, if I say something like that on my resume, and I have this moment of evidence, this processed over $2,000 in retail orders per day and prep shirts to ship clients all over the United States. How do I then talk about that in an interview? I'm going to model an example for you using the formula that I shared with you earlier, right? Following the STAR method. And there's this note here about adding competencies. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. Situation. My role was order fulfillment specialist for ABC Shirt Line. The company had released a new line of t-shirts that were selling much faster than anticipated, and they were having trouble keeping up with orders. For over 6 months, timeline, the warehouse could barely keep up with orders. So I created a system where I printed out all the daily orders by type of shirts and distributed them for the team. This meant that everyone, including me, only have to grab inventory from one section of a huge warehouse rather than try to hunt down inventory. And you can elaborate to say, all over a 147,000 square foot warehouse. As a result, the entire team went from processing an average of $1,200 in t-shirts per day to $1,800. I was recognized as a top performer, averaging over 2,000 in t-shirt ships each day. I learned that creating a more efficient process can significantly change the team's ability to perform and sustain revenue. That's a skill that I can see being valuable as your warehouse supervisor. Relevance. Do you see how we lock it in at the end? So these anchors, the situation, timeline, action, result, relevance, allows us to weave a story. Now, if you have truly researched the company that you are looking to apply with, or that you're applying for, you may discover what their competencies are, core competencies, maybe their vision statement, maybe their values, and you can work those words in. For example, more efficient processes may be a core value or a key component of that company. So you want to mention that. Maybe they're really big on team, and you'll notice that this focuses a lot on teamwork. So anything that you can tell, both from the job description as well as your research into the company, that may be value statements or keywords that they use in that company, you want to make sure that you include those. Now you may notice up here in the corner that I have a statement that says, don't say help. And I'll talk you through that as I share the next example. Here's another bullet. Assisted with new floor plan for a retail store. Well, what does this mean? I'm always a little perplexed when I hear people say help or assist. And there's several reasons why this is detrimental in your resume. First of all, when you're helping or assisting, you're always referring to what somebody else did. You're allowing the primary actor in this statement to be somebody else. And in your resume, you want all the attention on you. Also, what does it mean to assist? If you're helping somebody, let me give you an example. If you're helping your mom take suitcases out to the car, that means I carried two 50-pound suitcases to the car. It doesn't matter who you were helping, it's about what's underneath the help. What's the actual action that you're taking? And then really be specific. Like two suitcases, 50 pounds. Like get to details. For example, selected by store manager to remove old inventory and create 12 clothing displays with new seasonal merchandise in a 147,000 square foot department store. That tells you a lot more, doesn't it? You see, we have a tendency sometimes to get really factual or generic about our jobs. And what happens is that we end up with a resume that could describe so many other people, when really you want your resume to be so power-packed and so unique that it can only represent you. So if you've ever included words like assisted, help, or maybe wrote some bullets that were vague, I want to invite you to really spend some time powering up your bullets. Because by creating these new power-packed bullets that speak to achievement, you're now setting yourself up for a stronger interview, saying words like this. I was an assistant manager for ABC Company at a 147,000 square foot retail store location. In September of 2018, we received our fall inventory, and I led a 2-week project to reconfigure the store floor plan and create merchandise display across 12 separate departments. After a week after I had completed the new displays, the store had a surprise inspection by the district manager and the vice president of merchandising. The displays I created met or exceeded all of their review criteria. And that resulted in the store being selected for a special fall customer outreach event, which brought in over $750,000 in incremental sales. Your job posting said that you needed a store manager that can revitalize the look and feel of your store. This is just one example of how I led teams to use new inventory to create spaces and visual displays that engaged customers and drove measurable increases in sales per square foot. I am looking forward to applying these skills to create growth for the ABC City Store. So if you timed that probably was about a minute, maybe just a little bit over a minute, and it was power packed, wasn't it? It starts out with the situation, and I like in the situation for you always ground who you were in the role and what the company was, and anything else that can kind of explain the scope of the company or the work. You go to the timeline, if possible, giving when this happened, how long did it take, the action, what exactly you did, and what the results were. And anywhere that you can tie that to a specific metric, that's super powerful. And then the relevance. And notice that I have some items here highlighted in blue. These are, in this example, related to competencies. So imagine that this applicant had done research on the ABC City Store and found out that they really value customer outreach, customer engagement, and one of their key metrics by which they evaluate their staff is sales per square foot. Now I'm speaking their language. I'm pinging on what they're looking for in terms of a culture match. Somebody that can be delivering results in alignment to their values and their core competencies. All of this stemming from changing a bullet from something vague to something strong that allows for a star-based conversation, building evidence of statements from the resume all the way through to the interviews. I'm going to review again, and then I'm going to open up for some Q&A. Moments of evidence, which you can use in your resumes and then float that right out into your powerful interviews, include specifics, details, and being brief. Have success stories, measurable results, making sure as much as possible that it's relevant to the job that you're pursuing, and following the STAR method, the expanded STAR method that I teach and I coach in my practice, which is situation, timeline, action, result, and relevance. And remember that when you build an evidence-based resume, it begins to prepare you for those powerful, impactful, and I'll add, memorable interviews. You want to be someone that just blows them away by the clarity of what you've delivered and how relevant it is to what they're looking for. So spending time to truly research the company, the position, allows you to then cultivate and curate your language to match what they're looking for. And I will say that you want to make sure that you practice, because we think that we're all sorts of good about talking to ourselves, and then we get into an interview and they maybe ask us a question in a way we didn't expect, and we stumble, and if we stumble we get more nervous, and then it all kind of goes downhill from there. But if you practice either in front of a mirror, or better yet, video yourself, especially these days when so many interviews are via Zoom or other video technology, if you practice, you're going to get a lot better at delivering these powerful moments of evidence in you that come from your resume and feed into your interview. I am going to do a quick reminder here of what makes a great resume. And so as you're building these evidence-based resume, remember to make them modern and that they align with applicant tracking system formatting. Have great contact information. Make sure they can find your phone number and your email address. Build a powerful profile segment. Have strong evidence and recent history. Make it relevant. Include that education and professional development as well. Because there are many, many people that are out there using these styles of resumes, using these strategies, and they're landing, just first of all, they're getting they're landing a lot of interviews, they're getting multiple offers, and they're landing jobs that are just changing their lives. I invite you to keep in touch. There is the link again. You can either screenshot that or take a picture to keep in touch with me and join my email community so I can send you a copy of this presentation and periodically some other nuggets about how to power up your presence in the job market. And what I'll do at this point is go ahead and wrap up the presentation piece and open it up for you.
All right, well, we'll turn our cameras back on here. That was great, Liz. I'll go ahead and switch over the presenter.
Wonderful,
Me.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz. That was really, really great. As usual, you've shared a lot of useful information. And now, like Liz said, we'll open it up to questions. We do have one already. Someone wants to know, how cumulative do you need to be on an evidence-based resume?
I'm not exactly sure what they mean by cumulative. I'm gonna address that in a couple of different ways, and if you can clarify that for me, I'll address it specifically. If you're talking about how far back to go in your history, 10 to 15 years, and if you're talking about how big your bullets should be, your bullets should be 1 or 2 lines. If you have a really chunky story to tell, it can go into 3 lines, but you want to keep them pretty slim, and you want to keep answers in interviews. Have a good 1 to 2 minute answer ready, and then know that if you're in a good groove, you can expand that. Conversations can go much longer, but you want to be able to really provide impact in about a minute or 2.
Okay. Someone would like to know if they should just list the majority of job responsibilities or just save space for the ones to spotlight.
I encourage you to be selective. In our jobs, we have a lot of different jobs, duties. You don't necessarily have to list everything. If it's relevant to what you're looking to do next, then highlight those. If you have stuff that you don't have to confess everything you've ever done, right? You want to just put what's most relevant to what you're doing next. So yes, you can curate that. Don't be dishonest and don't leave out something that's important. But yeah, I mean, if part of your duties included, taking out the mail on Fridays, that has nothing to do with what you want to do in the future, you don't have to tell them that.
We have another question here. Feel free to submit your questions as we go through them. We have a little bit of time left, but we've got one here that someone is lacking a lot of professional experience, and they are asking if they can use the same evidence-based strategy for other events or types of experience on their resume.
Yeah, so I'm doing a resume for someone now who's had a great career, but he's shifting into something very different. He wants to do, he's going from a sales career into community work. He doesn't have a lot of relevant experience from his sales career, so I'm drawing out as much as possible, but I'm also saving room on the resume to feature his volunteer work, because he's had years of really in-depth volunteer work that are directly related to the type of work he now wants to do for a living. So yes, there are times when you can draw from education, and you can draw from maybe certifications, internships, volunteer work. There are places where you can draw from in a strategic way to add those keywords and those moments of evidence to your resume so that you are more relevant to the job that you're pursuing.
We have time for one more question, kind of related, a little bit of, I guess, opposite of what that last question was. They're asking, how can you easily share information about an older job that you want to include for the experience, like something that was perhaps 10, 15 years prior?
There is a way to list at the bottom of your resume some prior roles, and you want to do this carefully because that job was 25 years ago. You're opening a can of worms to talk about that job was 25 years ago. So you have to be strategic, but you can list prior roles without dates or any information, just a short list on at the bottom, just to kind of give permission, so to speak, to bring it up in an interview.
All right. I think that's it for questions. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Liz. Let me go ahead and throw up this last slide here. If you hold on, let me bring this up in a larger form. Here we go. If you'd like to contact the library, you can call us at 813-273-3652. Staff are available to assist you 7 days a week. from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Or you can go online at this web address, hcplc.org/contact. You can also see what types of programs we have. Similar to this one, we have all sorts of programming available online at this moment at hcplc.org/events. And of course, Liz has her own website. I know she shared some of her other information here, but this is hers at www.lizmlopez.com. Liz, thank you so much. We're very, very honored to have you with us, and you're so generous. And we really, really appreciate it. And we thank you all for joining us this evening. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Goodbye.